Om Shanti. It's not often that we can listen to a song in English before a talk in English and actually use it as a reference for what we're going to say. But the whole theme of the song that was just played is related to the topic. When you see through the eyes of the soul. And so, what happens when we see through the eyes of the soul? What does it mean to see through the eyes of the soul? Huh? Feeling of brotherhood. Definitely. Of course it goes beyond that. And they asked me about, to give a class here, and asked me also what sort of topic I'd like to share on. And a topic that's been in my mind, I guess for about a month or so now, is the relationship between what we see and what happens in our lives. When Daddy Janki was recently in Brazil, beginning of September, we had a coordinators retreat, center coordinators, for people from all over South America. And Sister Moini was also there, and as you know, she's a trance messenger. It's very useful to have a regional coordinator who is also a trance messenger. And she brought back a beautiful message from Baba related to what I'm going to talk about. Baba was relating the word drishti with shrishti. It means our vision with the world that comes out of us. Personally, the world that we're creating collectively is coming out of us. It's coming out through our eyes, basically. The eyes are the index, in a very literal sense, of what goes on inside, because they are the filters. We filter things that are happening through our eyes. That means we selectively interpret things that are going on according to our own internal state. We read things into situations that are often not there. We see things that are not real. And that's why Maya is often translated as illusion. And when we got Maya, we're not seeing the things as they are, really. Just how does Baba see us and how we see ourselves compare? And then we see that there may be some difference. If I'm feeling not so happy about my own state, is that an experience that Baba would have of me? No. Baba would never be happy about me. So why do I get unhappy about me? Right? When I see others, do I see them as they really are? Therefore, do I see them as Baba sees them, or do I see them as I am? And this is a very deep and subtle thing. And all of the adjustments that we have to make on our spiritual stage somehow or the other have to do with adjusting our vision. Baba told us not to see defects. Yet we still see defects. We take them in and they mess around with us inside. We have a very peculiar interpretation of the world around us, very personal. You'll have 10 people seeing the same situation, and you'll have 10 things happening in each of those inner worlds. And of course the real thing that's happening is just what's happening, it's the drama. You know, there's an accident in the street and a policeman comes past. He will see it as one more job. If there's a dead body, he will see it, as a piece of meat that's lying there on the road. A doctor will have another vision because he's done so many anatomy classes, and will see that body there lying again as a physical structure. And let's say the mother comes along. For the mother, it's not a piece of meat. It's the body of the dead son, and so on. A passerby, a pedestrian goes past, he doesn't have any feeling at all, just sees it. If there's a car involved, the tow truck driver is wanting to earn money, and he'll see that dead body as a chance to earn money. Right? So all of them are seeing the same thing, but each of them are seeing they're seeing the situation as they are. And this goes very deep, because when we meet people, let's take an example. Am I meeting that person, or am I meeting my file? Am I meeting the file that I have on that person? All of the memories and all of the interactions that I've had with that person are there recorded in me. And that person's in front of me, so I bring up the file and I consult it. And of course, so-and-so's in front of me. Let's say I've had problems with that person. So-and-so, my problematic friend, is in front of me. And of course he's probably, or he or she is doing the same thing with me. Each of us are consulting our file and probably not actually communicating at a deeper level, just changing files. Again, if there's a difficult situation in front of me, where is the difficulty? Is it in the situation itself, or is it in the way that I'm interpreting it? The difficulty is in here, right? So it's really funny when you see people rushing around, and they say, I'm terribly busy, but in fact they're terribly busy with their own sanskars. Because it's their own sanskars internally that are producing the world that's happening around them. So if somebody comes in front of you also, and that person is someone with whom you've had difficulties, or with whom you are having difficulties now, but in fact you don't have any difficulties with anyone. We have difficulties with our own sanskars. People are not difficult. I am being difficult with myself. And it's here that I have to change. I have to change the way I see. And this is a very deep and subtle thing. Baba today talked about attitudes and vision. And we form our vision based on the internal postures that we take. For example, someone who, we were talking with a group of brothers the other day, and it's very common amongst souls in male bodies especially to suffer the illusion of self-sufficiency. That I'm okay, I'm all right, I don't need any help. It's probably one of the reasons why in our centres there are more sisters, because there are more women who do the course than there are men. It's probably the same proportion actually. The amount of sisters that become BKs and the amount of brothers, which is always a less number, is probably the same proportion of people who come to the courses, more women than men. Because men have a difficulty to admit that they need help. And I'm not sure what the difficulties that women have. Probably got their own. But many of us are very insular. That means we insulate ourselves. We protect ourselves with all sorts of ideas and opinions. And we try to move around the world in that way. And of course, the world that comes out of us, okay, if you're insular, you'll end up being pretty alone. If you've overprotected yourself, you haven't been open as an attitude of openness, then the world that forms around you will probably reject you. Different proportions of rejection. But if you reject others, you'll be rejected. If you embrace others, you'll be embraced. That's how it works. So my internal attitudes, the sort of posturing that I have inside is very important because that gives me the perspective to see things from. And I can have different perspectives. Baba says like this, when your self-esteem is down, you'll see a problem this big. But if you're sitting on the throne of self-respect and you see the same situation, the problem is only this big. And it's the same problem. But what you've done is you've changed your perspective. You've changed the way you're looking at things. You've changed the way you've understood things. And this is incredibly important because all we really have to do is to change the way we see things. We can't change things themselves. We can only change the way that we see them. We can't change other people. All of us would love to have people around us who don't bother us at all. Never. Who are always nice and happy and sweet and charming and quiet and lovely. It would be great to have 20 people like that around us all the time. But of course, what would you learn? And we have this terrible, terrible habit of wanting other people to be different, when in fact what we need to do is to be different ourselves and see things in a different way. Just recently I was giving a talk, and at the end of the talk a lady said, but she was evidently talking about her husband. She didn't say, but it seemed like it was. She said, I live with someone. I've spoken to him at least 300 times to change his behavior. Because the way he's going, he's just going down and down and down, and it's very difficult. I've told him at least 300 times that he should change his ways, change his behavior, change his attitude, but he doesn't listen to me. 300 times I've said it, he doesn't listen to me. First of all, if you have to say something to someone 300 times, you're declaring yourself to be a very terrible communicator, right? That's beside the point. I asked her if she was an example of the type of behavior and attitude that she'd like her husband to have, right? Okay, you want your husband to change. Okay, are you the example of what you want him to be? She said, oh no, that's very difficult. Well, I didn't say it, but it's obvious, isn't it? How can you want someone to be different and someone to change and be something that you're not even prepared to be yourself, right? She didn't really have clear what she wanted him to be. She just wanted him to be different, right? And secondly, very important, you never help somebody by seeing their defects, never. And it defeats itself. It's a self-defeating effort. If you're seeing defects and those defects are affecting you, somehow you want that person to be different, right? You would like that person not to have those defects, right? But by your seeing those defects, you're making it harder for that person to leave them. Maybe that person is making an effort, and there you are emphasizing those defects to him. And because he's maybe struggling to get away from it. And there you are. Just your vision is making it more difficult for that other person to leave them. Now, this is a more subtle exercise. But if you really want someone to be different, don't see their defects, see their virtues. That will help them on a subtle level to come out of themselves and to do something about it. And the second thing obviously is that if you're seeing defects, it's because, why? Why? You reckon there's something resonating in you. There's something in there that makes you recognize that. If you were a deity now, would you recognize anyone's defects? No. It's not part of it's not part of your attitude. It's not part of your vision. There's nothing inside of you bothering you. And this is a very, let's say, one of the reasons why we have difficulty in our relationships is exactly because we project ourselves. Yeah. It's like you're actually anyone here is absolutely free from difficult people? Please hand up. Hand up, please. There's no one around you that causes you any difficulties. Please, hands up. Wow, 3. 4. Anyone for 5? Okay. When you don't, and Baba often mentions it, why Baba mentions it, it's because it exists in the Brahmin family, right? If you want to see the real deep stuff about relationships, look up those mois in which Baba has been talking directly to the Madhaba Niwasis. That's a real mine of treasures of understanding human relationships. Because Madhaba Niwasis, they live and work together in a very intense way. The Muli in September especially was directed at the Madhaba Niwasis, and Baba was talking about these things. And so when there's some difficulty of getting along with somebody, what you're actually saying more or less is that I don't understand, how come you don't understand like I understand? Yeah? I don't understand why you don't understand the things like I understand. Yeah? That's there. Why can't people have different understandings? So you try to prove your point and the other person tries to prove their point, and there's a conflict of understandings. Why is there a conflict of understanding? There are different perspectives. Why are there different perspectives? Because there have been different histories, different experiences, different attitudes, different drishti. So always in a conflict with someone, there's a problem of drishtis that are not meeting properly, I'm seeing that way and the other person's seeing that way, and we insist that the person tries to see the same as we do. Here, get inside my head and look, and then you will understand what I'm talking about. Of course, that's impossible. Or sometimes we'd love to jump inside the other person's head and change the things around so that they could understand. Right? Not possible. So we have to change the way we see things. To do that, have to change our attitudes. Now, change our attitudes, it's a deeper thing. Basically, it's a question of belief. What do we believe? Do you really believe, really, honestly, 100% believe that you will become a deity? Or do you know it? But as Daddy was saying this morning, has it become part of your nerves? You know, it's like she was giving the example the other day of Brahma Baba dancing in the history hall in the intoxication that he was going definitely to become a small prince. When you listen to the Muli, do you believe? You probably believe in Baba. You probably believe in Gyan. But do you believe that you are that one also? This is the big question. Because the difficulty of changing attitudes, and therefore to change our perspective, is a question of belief. What do I believe? Do I really believe 100% that I will become karmatit? Or do I've heard it, I've written it down at least 6,000 times in my notebook, but have I bought that idea for myself? You know, have I taken it on board for myself? And I give you an example from the Lokik world. Several years ago I was working in consulting, and one big industrial federation asked me if I could help them to develop a program to reduce accidents at work, in the workplace. Now they showed me some statistics. Let's say from the year 2000 to from the year 1990 to the year 2000, they'd tried everything. Because in Brazil, they must lose at least $50 billion every year through accidents and work-related sickness, like stress is also considered as a work-related incident. So they lose. So the insurance companies are very interested, the government is very interested in reducing work accidents and deaths, right? And so they tried everything, you know. They tried investing new technology, campaigns to raise the awareness, you know, fear campaigns, you know, be careful, you'll lose your hand if you're not careful. And they were able to, through new legislation, new technology, campaigns of all types, they were able to reduce them to a certain level. But after that, nothing. They couldn't get it down below this. For the last 5 years, it's been the same. And they decided, or they imagined, and it's true, that it was related to behavior rather than to technology or to the machines themselves or whatever, you know, or the legislation or quality programs. Basically it's a question of belief. For example, someone believes that nothing will ever happen to them, and that's the person that loses his hand. I've been here 20 years, nothing ever has happened to me. Off goes their hand, in the machine or whatever. They fall from They fall from a ladder and they break their leg. Right? So it was proposed somehow or the other, let's do a behavior-based campaign rather than just a scare campaign. And what are behaviors based on? Behavior based on belief. What you believe, you can do. Now, let's transpose that analogy to Brahmin life, okay? Through visits to Madhavan, through visits of daddies and seniors, through special retreats and so on, you've been able to reduce Maya to a certain level. But I'm sure everyone I've ever talked to, including myself, we've got a little bit or a little lot of things still to do. Is that right? Or you feel you're okay? Are there some deeply entrenched sanskars that you haven't been able to budge? You haven't been able to move? Are there? Let's be honest. Some things, right? You know why? And this is what I'd like to share with you. It's because you don't believe that you're able to do it still. You've been able to do a lot, but there are some things that you need to look at your beliefs to change. What do you believe about yourself, really? Do you believe that you are one of I remember in a meeting with Bapdada in those days of meetings, Baba said to one soul, do you know that you are a soul more elevated than the founder of the religion of your country? And he was referring to Christ. He said to this soul, you are more elevated than the Christ soul, do you know that? What do you mean? What do you mean? How? Of course, we've created such a big story about these religious founders. They were probably very ordinary people with a very special nature, right? Very special dharana, definitely. But not the gods that we've painted them out to be, And this brother couldn't absorb that, How can I believe myself to be so elevated? And it's very, very crucial for us to be able to change that deep stuff that's inside of us, to look at the beliefs that perpetuate certain sanskars. Year in and year out, those things are still there because there's something that we believe about ourselves that does not allow us to change it. Whatever we've been able to change, we've believed in it. But there are things that we have to look at a deeper level. When Baba's, let's say at the end of the Avyakamulis, he gives the farewell to those souls who are the lights of my eyes, who are the stars of the world, the most brilliant ones, the great Maharatis like in today's Muli, who do this and to do that and to do this. And he's talking to those ones who include themselves in that group. Now, when you're listening to those farewells, do you include yourself? Or do you think that Baba's talking to someone else? I mean, I'd like to be a Maharati, but, that definition that Baba gave today, my God, not so easy, yeah? So you say not so easy, you don't believe it to be easy, right? So if you don't believe it to be easy, when are you going to start to feel ease? This is the thing. So we structure ourselves internally on what we believe ourselves to be. And that structure is the basis of our attitudes. Now, let's just go back to our local situation, right? Most of us probably don't have the fortune that some of us do. Because, for example, in my case, I'm never in the same place for more than 2 or 3 days, so I don't have any time to create karmic accounts with anybody. It's like, hello, how are things, and goodbye, smiling the whole time. And then I go to the next place, hello, how are things, goodbye. It keeps just going around. But most of us, we go to a center, the same people, the same Brahmins, the same sister reading the Murli, and even she tells the same jokes, or tells the same stories. And there's so much sameness about our daily routine that it sort of numbs us, makes us numb, makes we become anesthetized, to something wider than that. Now, if physically that's your situation, you've got 3 or 4 places that you go to, your work, your home, your house, and the center, and a few other places, and that's it, The whole year is just doing that dance. Center, home, work, center, home, work, center, home, work. Long dance. Can you see yourself being free, really? Can you really see yourself being free to be able to do what your true purpose really is? Or do you think that, or you believe that somehow or the other time will sort things out? Or you believe, for example, that sooner or later my family will make less difficulties for me, or sooner or later my work won't be so heavy, or sooner or later I'll have the Brahmin dream of working a little and earning a lot, so that I'm able to do Baba's service. Then, the delayed reaction for the translation, the English people laugh and then the delayed laugh. Anyway, do you see yourself really being free? It's a deep thing, because you will only be able to rehearse that internally. You have to visualize yourself, because the world that comes out of you is the world that's inside you. Your version of the world is your creation. That's what Gyan tells us. Yeah. So when I'm battling with situations and with people, I forget that it's actually the battle with my own sanskars, right? Those people and situations really have very little to do with my problems. They're just actors and scenery for the things that I have to do in myself. And if I take this, perhaps I stop for the first time being a victim of myself, and I become a protagonist of something else. Do something better. And I have to rehearse that internally. That's why, let's say, mental service is so important, and silence, yeah? Because if physically I'm bound because of karmic relationships or work situation or whatever, it's a difficulty that I have with matter, really, and it's a difficulty that I have with my own sanskars related to matter, that the money is not coming in, or the health is not so good, or there are people creating problems. But I have to quieten down my own sanskars. I have to give myself time internally. And if I'm stuck, and the only possibility to extend my range, to have something different, to break the sameness, is through mental service, then that's what I have to do. So I'm seeing the same people day after day, the same situations day after day, and things don't look to be changing. Even mentally, I'm not going outside of that. So when will I break it? The first breakout has to be mental, yeah? I have to see myself free from whatever I'm trying to be free from. And then I'll be free from it. I have to visualize it. That means I have to create the vision here. And then that will come out in the world. What I create here with Baba's help, if Baba says, for example, see your future form, dance with your future form. Now, maybe that's blurry, it's not so clear. The future isn't so clear. But if I really want to be free from the present, I have to learn to dance with the future. Yeah. That'll help me. I have to have something to pull me forward, to leave behind what is holding me. I just can't break it and then fly. I have to sort of fly and then, start leaving behind. Now let's do a small exercise, okay? Everyone's got a piece of paper? Yeah? The ones that don't will have to do it mentally, but if you've got a piece of paper, it will be useful. This is called tweaking the vision, making the adjustments to our vision. This little exercise. Everything that I am and everything that I have internally comes out into the world through my vision. Yeah? And when I'm looking at the world, my part of it, I'm actually seeing myself everywhere. It's not something to make us mad or crazy. Yeah? For example, I don't see the person, I see my idea of the person. Yeah? I don't see the thing as Baba sees, I see my idea of the thing. Yeah? Now, in the middle of a page, take a fresh page. In the middle of the page, write the word me. Or the self, the soul, me. Not the body, of course. The real me. Okay. I want you to, around that circle, that little ball in the middle, draw 6 balls connected. In the first ball, write the name of someone that you really admire. Someone who's really inspired you in your efforts, in your spiritual efforts. Someone from whom you have really received love. Someone, a human being, right? Someone that you admire and are inspired by. And you learn from. What was that? Yeah? Got the person in front of you? Yeah? Visualize that person. And feel what you feel when you think of them. Okay? course, check that there's no attachment. But someone who really, like let's say Daddy Janki, she's probably given so much love to most of us on an individual level even. Such a special jewel. And when you think of her, you feel sort of nice, right? So you're visualizing that person, and you're feeling what you're feeling, yeah? Got it? Got it? Write down 1 or 2 words of what you feel when you think of that person. Okay. In the next little ball, in the next little circle, write the name of someone with whom you've had considerable difficulty. Just for the sake of the exercise. And if you haven't got any present difficulty creators, personal difficulty creators, then try to think of someone from the past, maybe. Okay? So write the name of that difficult person. Yeah? From whom you've experienced considerable anguish or suffering, sorrow. I mean, Baba gave a very, very powerful muli from September about not taking sorrow, yeah? And he was talking to Brahmins who live together. So Brahmins are great distributors of sorrow, but we don't have to be in the market of sorrow, right? Anyway, put the name of someone from whom you have in the past or now are still receiving sorrow or anguish or difficulty or confusion. Yeah? Got it? So what do you feel when you think of that person? What immediately comes up? Yeah? What comes up? First reaction. Oh no. Not that person again. Maybe fear or maybe anger or maybe hatred or, even a little bit, 10%. Some not very positive feeling, yeah? Right? Let's be honest. Okay. Now let's look at that person, visualize that person, and let's, for the sake of the exercise, sit side by side with Bapdada, just as Daddy Janki did the other night. So there we are, sitting on the gadi together with Bapdada, and we're looking at that difficult person, right? What do we see? What do you feel? How do you feel? Huh? Love, pure love. Pure love. You see a soul that's had a long history, been through a lot just as we have. Someone who's trying to succeed. Someone who's trying to make a go of it. Someone who's trying to have victory. And for some reason still a little bit stuck. So if my mercy and my love and my vision could help that soul, then together with Bapdada, let's do it. Let's do it. Because I'm looking at that soul in the same way Baba looks at that soul, and there's just such a good feeling, yeah? And I can't even understand why in the past I've taken sorrow or taken difficulty from that person. Yeah? Okay? Make the adjustments. Okay, in the third little circle, write down Or just imagine your family. Write the word family. I mean, many of us maybe don't live with our blood family. We would live with Brahmins. It's our Brahmin family. Yeah. But family. Write the word family. Now, when you think of family, maybe you think of problems. Yeah. Maybe you think of people that don't cooperate or won't cooperate or can't cooperate with you. Maybe you think of burden. What comes to your mind when you think of your Lokik family, if that's where you live? What comes to your mind? Oh no. Very complicated, very complex. So what do I do with that? How do I see the family as different? Baba says, okay, see your family as a place of service also. Now, let's sit in front of our family mentally, okay? We can actually do it meditating-wise. Let's meditate. Just visualize your family in front of you, and you're sitting in front of them, giving them drishti. And they're all taking drishti from you. And you know that you've been born in that particular place to help those souls. You're with those people. It's the perfect place for you, actually. The people that you live and you share your life with. They are the people who are most fortunate because they've taken their birth in your most fortunate birth together with you. And they are the ones you have to serve spiritually. And Baba says that if you have a karmic account, the way to get out of it is to serve. Yeah? So just visualize serving the people that you live with. And that's the vision that you should have all the time. I'm here to serve. Nothing else. Just to serve. Okay? Got it? Okay, the next little circle. Work. Where you work, who you work with. Some of us are just doing Baba's service, so that's, let's say, our workplace as well. So you see your colleagues. Okay, visualize your colleagues. If you're a salesman, then visualize your clients, Get your 4 or 5 main clients in front of you. And again, if you think work is heavy, or you think the work is a drudge, drudgery, or you think work is difficult, or you think you can't do it, some people may, when they think of work, they think the word pressure, or the word stress, or maybe fear in some cases. So how do you change your vision of all of those things? Again, you have to see yourself, you have to see your work as a place of service. You are there to serve, that's all, nothing else. Not to earn money. That helps, that's secondary, but your main reason to be where you are is because you're Baba's instrument to give Baba's energy and love and maybe knowledge to those people who are around you and closest to you. Okay, so let's visualize our colleagues. Let's say our immediate boss, our 2 or 3 workmates closest to us, and maybe if we're in a leading position at work, the people that actually work under us. So there they are, also sitting in front of us. And I'm sitting there and giving drishti to all of them with so much love. Giving them so much power. And this is my real function. It's not to be an engineer or a doctor or even a writer or working in Baba's publications or whatever, if our service is our main work. That's secondary. Our real service is to give love and to be a proper representative of Baba on the field of service. So that's the way, when I think of work, I have to think of work firstly as that, and secondly, whatever the function is. But always, firstly, I have to serve. Yeah? Okay, in the next little circle, write the word future. Okay, how do you see your future? It's very important. When do you see yourself completely free? No, but let's be realistic. As Baba says, give yourself a date. Do you see how you will be when you're a deity, let's say? So pure, so innocent, interacting so smoothly, hardly saying anything. No need to say anything. No need to give names to anything or to anyone. Everything is absolutely marvelous. Heaven is like a wonderland. I'm not seeing myself necessarily dressed up as those, as Lakshmi Narayan with all of those jewels and so on. In fact, personally I can't see myself like that, but I do relate to the feeling. I can see the feeling. I can feel what it's like to be a deity. No need to do anything, no need to say anything, no need even to think anything, no need to interpret anything, no need to intellectualize about anything. Just pure, unlimited appreciation. Light, happy, loveful, innocent, pure. Can you see it? How we interact with the nature, how we interact with each other. Can you see it? See it? Yeah? Feel it? Can you feel it? You're not saying anything. Feel it? Yes? Ah, very good. So very important. Very important. Now we're coming up for traffic control, so let's go to the last little circle, where you put the word Baba. Okay? Now how do you see Baba? Om Shanti. just to finish off a few ideas, and then we can go. One thing is to see Baba, and the other thing is to understand how Baba sees you. One thing is to call Baba your friend, and another thing is for Baba to call you his friend. He is our friend, but am I his friend? Because it's a double-sided relationship. Two sides. From me to Baba and from Baba to me. Do I get the feeling, as I was taking leave from Daddy just now, she said, and she often says this, do you know what Baba wants you to do? Do you know what Baba wants from you? Or do you know what Baba sees in you? Do you know why Baba selected you? Do you know why Baba loves you? All of those things. It requires us to understand how it is from Baba's side towards us. Because we're experts because of 2,500 years of bhakti, trying to figure out how to get to God and what's our side of the relationship, and how to meet Him now, especially. All of those feelings that were blocked or lost now have somewhere to go to because we've got Baba's introduction. But the deeper thing is to understand the other side, how Baba sees me. So if I can see me as Baba sees me, I'll have the right image of myself. And Baba sees me as perfect. Baba sees me as a victorious soul. Baba sees me as an eternal soul that's been through the whole cycle of 84 births. Baba doesn't see me as an Australian or a Turk or a Russian or Brazilian. He doesn't see me from a particular center or a place or whatever. He sees me as that soul that has a very special role to play in the whole cycle, and his vision is what cures my vision, basically. If I have to make any effort, I have to try to make my vision as close to Baba's vision as possible when I see people, things or anything. So when I meditate, I have to be careful. Last time I was here, was in February, I think, or March. They had different spiritual retreats going on, couples retreat, mothers retreat, Kumar's retreat, older brothers retreat, and so on. And I was in one of the small groups just having a chit chat with the older brothers, mainly married brothers. And one of them said, I've been 11 years in Gyan, and until now I haven't seen the golden red light of Parandam. And I said, you know what? I haven't seen it either. And I've been around 30 years. It's not a question of seeing something, right? It's a question of feeling. Meditation is feeling. What I feel when I'm in God's company. It's not what I think or what I think, which is worse. When you're not meditating, you're thinking what you're thinking, right? If you start to think about what you're thinking, then you've stopped meditating. Yeah. And so I said to him, look, we're here to fly, not to get into a flight simulator. Because they train pilots, in these machines, and Everything's the same. It's as if they've taken off and they're flying through the skies, and then they come into land, and all of the scenes are on the computer and all of the controls are working, but in fact they're still in the same place. Yeah. But what really helped me when I was starting off is to understand, what the perspective that I have to do the things, even when I sit down to meditate. I'm not a human being trying to have a spiritual experience. I'm a spirit having a human experience. And if I sit down to meditate like that, I'm already flying out. I don't need to get into any simulation. Don't need to simulate meditation. I can meditate. So I need to match my feelings with Baba's feelings, and then I can meditate. Match my vision with his vision. Okay, fantastic. What a world you see. What a world you see. What a wonderful family you see in front of you. What wonderful souls we have here. What an incredible garden this garden is making. What a new world is opening in front of us. And of course you forget the old world. It's not relevant anymore. Okay, so these were some little ideas that I wanted to share with you. Yeah? You got a question? A vision? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I came into Gyan. In fact, last night we had a little party. What? The question? What was the question was, what was the vision that I had when I first came into Gyan that changed my perspective on things? Last night we were with Daddy Gulzar. And there was a small party for those of us who've been celebrating 30 years in Gyan. And she wanted us to all give our first impressions, right, of our first contact with the Brahma Kumaris. I mean, I can hardly remember it actually, but I came along and there was a sign in the door of the small little centre in London in 1975 that said, "You have been here 5,000 years ago." And I thought, wow, that's the most incredible thing I've ever heard. Because at that very moment I had an experience that I had been here before. So it was really weird, I had the experience, I've been here before. There was a sign saying, "You've been here before." Oh. I felt so relieved. It's just like I've come back then. That means I've come back. Yeah. I didn't understand too much at the beginning, like most of us. But a few days after that, I was, not so used to getting up so early. And I wasn't working at the time, so I was having a small afternoon nap to recover from getting up so early. And I woke up and I was sort of in that state of semi-grogginess and, what time is it? Did anyone get the number plate of the truck that just hit me, And I just looked at the wall and the wall changed. And I saw a scene of the destruction. And in that scene I saw myself dressed in white. Many years later, and it was a scene of earthquakes. The earth was opening up and everyone was falling in. And I don't know if I was in a physical body or a subtle body, but I seemed to have been, sort of angelic. And I was telling the people, and this is before I even understood jnana, didn't know about the cycle at this particular time. I was telling people, don't worry, you're just going back home. Don't worry, you're just going back home. So often I remember that scene because it showed me not worried. Not only not worried, but telling people not to worry. So that's it, isn't it? We don't worry and we tell people not to worry. That's what service is all about. Yeah? Okay. Om Shanti.